Okay, my name is Ava Galilee and I am one of Nina's good friends. And I'm going to ask her a little bit about her food allergy journey as a mum of 2 children with severe food allergies.
And I'm Nina, and I have never been asked before anything about our family's journey directly, so I look forward to what comes out of this conversation as well.
So, Nina, you have 2 children that have severe food allergies. Can you just tell us a little bit more about when that started, what that was like to find out that your children had that, and how that's impacted your life?
So I never wanted to have kids. I'm one of those women who always wanted to have a career and possibly adopt a child. Never wanted to get married, never had those ambitions in my life. However, I met the right person and he was quite keen to formalize the relationship. And we did, so the only reason why we did it is to have children. That was the agreement. Once I had a child, I had no idea what food allergies are. I've heard about it, but I never actually considered that concept even. The child was born cesarean.
This is your first child?
My first child, 38.2, I think, weeks out of choice.
Okay, what's her name?
Amelia.
Okay, thank you.
Even going through the pregnancy, I was actually working full-time as a lecturer at university and working as a journalist for the national broadcaster, SBS, interviewing all the way to like 9 months and 2 weeks. So I was really busy during pregnancy, put on quite a bit of weight, 25 kilos, and had a baby. And the baby seemed wonderful except for some skin conditions. She had a lot of eczema. And then a lot of mucousy pools until they started having a lot of blood. So pretty much half of the pool was pure blood.
Wow.
And that in itself was a reason of concern. I went to countless GPs, literally willing to, huge cramming and no answers until she had her first anaphylaxis around 3 months of age when I gave her formula for the first time at night. She went floppy, first we drank out a lot and floppy. And I still didn't know what's going on, so I actually knocked on the door of our neighbor who was a GP, but he wasn't answering the door. And then I realized something must be actually wrong. That's not really how a baby should behave. And then we called ambulance. She was fine, she bounced back herself without adrenaline. But then we dived into that world of finding out all about food allergies. I remember in the hospital, and this was the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital near the city, when a young emergency doctor said, in the literature it said that you could have a secondary reaction. And I think for me that concept was even worse. Firstly because he said it says in the literature that unsecurity, like what does it actually mean? Like, okay, it says that, what's the experience say? Of course I had no idea about the concept itself. Now I know it's so unpredictable that you can't predict. But there are things you can take, such as steroids for the next couple of days. But at that time we were just discharged. She was really young, 3 months old. And that was the beginning of our food allergy life.
Wow. And so how is that, so getting that information that Amelia was allergic to something, did you know what her allergies were to at the time? And did you know where to go, who to talk to? Were you given guidance about that?
Not at all. So it was a lot of Googling, a lot of obviously booking specialist appointments. She was extremely reactive, so obviously anaphylaxis was for dairy in the formula, but she started becoming reactive to a lot of foods, which meant that I had to eliminate pretty much everything that was a potential allergen. So I was living on boiled chicken and rice and boiled carrot and potato for about 8 months.
Wow.
Didn't help me lose weight. I was really, and a bit of bread actually, so a lot of carbs. So I did have an extremely restricted diet, and around 6.5 months of age we tested her. She was showing a lot more allergies at that time. After many different allergies, at least 5, we managed to actually get into a public hospital in an RPA allergy unit. And from then on we were seeing a doctor who was working there both privately and in the public hospital unit. And then we established the allergy. So around 13 months of age, when we did the first blood test, it was quite clear that she was anaphylactic to milk and egg. But that causes other fears, which meant I never really gave her nuts and and a lot of other things.
So that's, I guess, the next question I had is how did you feel? Like, what was the main feelings that you had in and around Amelia's allergies, and like going out into the world and looking after your first child, so you don't have other children, you've never dealt with people with allergies in the past. How did that impact how you felt and what you were dealing with as a new mum for an infant, essentially, or a toddler at 13 months of age?
I guess the learning from experience. So, for example, if I would put her in a high chair in a cafe without really thoroughly cleaning it, she would react.
Yeah.
So she was contact reactive, let alone when she would ingest. So that meant really walking around constantly with food containers pre-prepared at home. There was a brilliant sort of blender and steamer, which I was advised by an allergist in Serbia. Interesting enough, we actually went to Serbia when she was an infant, and saw quite a few allergists in Serbia as well. So we sort of tried to compare opinions across continents.
Yeah.
They didn't really differ much, but sometimes you get life advice, and that was useful. So I was always having food on me, but it had to be kept at a maximum temperature for 4 hours. So that was a challenge. So you couldn't really be anywhere further than 4 hours from the place of where you would prepare the food. You wouldn't really take this whole blender with you. And also sanitizing everything. So you would, Dr. Jones, my business partner now, says that people experience during epidemic that they have to sanitize everything. That's how we live with allergy families non-stop. So you're always wiping all the surfaces. However, that meant that the child could not go to childcare. So socialization was quite limited, and that was more of anxiety. The ability to control your immediate environment is fine, but inability to control everything else is what causes fear and anxiety and stress and all the other feelings. So she never went to childcare. Instead, my mom would come from Europe for about 3 to 4 months at a time, and she would really be spending time with us. It also meant that I delayed the decision to have a second child, so I wanted to have a minimum 3.5 year gap before even trying for the second child, because I wanted the first child to possibly start some sort of preschool at the age of 4, which she did.
So I guess that must have been really scary to think at any point in time, if you are not watching her or don't have 100% control over everything, that your child, who's so little, could potentially die.
That fear was constant. Like even now, when we're talking, my child is in someone's care, and I have my phone on me and kind of keep checking how she is. So we even bought her a watch now that she's almost 9, so she can call us. So that anxiety, actually, I would say, increases with age rather than the other way around. Because when the child is small, you control the environment. You put them in the high chair in your car, so it's much more controlled. Yeah. Whereas the older they get, they go to different external providers. So we always had to make sure that she has her own food. In addition to that, she had to go to a private school with a nurse inside. That was, we felt, the only way for us to have that little extra layer of self, I guess, what is the word, to be a bit happier about where she is. That particular school which we chose is excellent generally with allergies and a lot of other chronic health conditions. But there were some even more elite schools which just did not even respond to the question of what happens in an allergic scenario. So I did a lot of interviewing of different schools, public and private, until we settled for the one we felt was making us feel better, and it was the best choice for us. Yeah.
And how do you think it's been for Amelia growing up with these allergies herself? How has that limited her ability to interact with others, to socialize, to be a part of, just being a normal child?
It's a fantastic question, and that is the impact which is difficult to assess as a non-expert, I guess. But you can feel that food allergy children, they can't have a birthday cake. They can't have any food at any event, especially milk and egg. Milk and egg is literally everywhere. So that would mean her always having a not very nicely looking, appealing cake like other kids, or complete, in a way, ostracization and self-isolation. Then we would, as a family, self-isolate. We wouldn't necessarily go A birthday party would be a nightmare. Honestly, instead of being a happy event, everybody's birthday party would be a burden. Every single birthday party and every single social event, including community events, Baha'i events, Slavas in our culture, everything would be, it's just a headache. But literally the first thing would be, oh my God, another social event, another food event. Because the child starts asking the question, why can't I have it? Why did God punish me? And I found those questions are, for me as a parent, more difficult to deal with than administering EpiPen and going to hospital. Which is crazy as a comparison. She was hospitalized so many times, at least 10 times, that there is a fatigue of hospitalization, fatigue of reaction. You would go into autopilot when you respond, and you would respond appropriately. But there were cases where others would try and convince you that your child is not having a reaction, and probably my parental guilt would be in those situations when somebody else was convincing me that my child is not having a reaction, which delayed my administration of emergency medication, which put us in risky situations, driving like a crazy person, 100 k's an hour in a remote area to get to the hospital, whereas I should have reacted whilst having all the medications on me. So the environment can influence your response.
Tell me about the support that you've had or not had as a mother with children with allergic reactions. Do you feel like the community, the government, associations, family, friends, where have you seen the support? Where have you not seen the support? How does that look like for you?
It's a very interesting concept of support. What is a support? I was lucky to be in a financial situation to be able to afford any allergist I wanted to see in Australia. We saw 5. I mean, they're very expensive, at least $600 each time you go, plus the skin prick and blood test. So it would be around $1,000 with all the testing, because many of it is privately billed. Because we initially didn't know how many allergies you would have, and government covers only some portion. So I was looking for support, and there were some amazing allergists who would really provide sort of emotional support, but it was always the same answer. Avoid, but you can't control accidental exposures. And that is the problem with the avoidance rhetoric. It doesn't work with food allergy families. We had 10 incidents outside of our home, not just in restaurants, playgrounds, child touching another child. So the touch is an interesting concept. When you have a food allergy family, you start becoming averse to touch, even your own child. Because you know if you have the wrong ingredient and you haven't sanitized your hands, the child might react. So that whole, nobody can provide you with that sort of support. How do you...
Do you feel that your bonding and connection with Amelia or Alex, your son, has been affected because of that?
I wouldn't really know any other way, so it's difficult to know, but I definitely wasn't kissing my child when she was newborn as much after the diagnosis, because I love my coffees, and every time I would have even the slightest bit of non-dairy, even with a little bit of chocolate on top, she would have a reaction. So that physical connection, I think I have to this day a little bit of that hesitance, even though the child is craving the physical connection and the hugs, and that is definitely something that I have been keeping at bay.
So tell me now, so you've recently come across maybe a way out, and maybe, if you want to describe a little bit about what you've been doing in the last little while to try and help your children have a bit more freedom.
The word maybe is what, the word maybe is the big unknown. The good thing is there is a positive outcome with my son. He was successfully desensitized in 9 months.
Wow.
The maybe is what hurts the most, because there is that 8% that my child might be in that.
It's so hard. I can't imagine what you've had to go through as a mom, and just hearing your story of, it's so hard to be a mother and then to have to worry at that level about all these excess things, and to constantly be afraid of your children's lives being in harm's way is something, it's such a burden to carry. And I really acknowledge and I just, say to you, you've done an incredible job to doing what you've done so far. Do you want to describe a little bit about that process of what, the immunization, and what maybe if there is freedom, what, how it's going to happen?
So we opened a clinic with an American doctor, Dr. Jones, as a business partner in Sydney, Australia. We, as a family, felt we don't want to be medical refugees in Australia. My husband and I are I'm a first generation migrant. He is pretty much a second generation. Our families had to leave their countries because my husband is Baha'i. He had to leave because of persecution of Baha'is in Iran. My family left in different stages, firstly because of communism, and then because of economic migration. We had 3 waves, and I left because of the war in Yugoslavia, because of the NATO bombing of Serbia and Montenegro. Bombs were falling. You don't really have a choice as a child when your parents decided you need to get out. Then I met you. You made my life more beautiful. You gave me a sense of home in a way, and belonging in a community which I didn't have at the time. So I do still appreciate that in every way, and every day I say thank you to you.
Same here.
In my heart. But we try to make a solution possible for us, not to separate the family, not to separate husband and wife. We're trying the best to have a family life in our country, Australia. And this is why we said enough is enough. Avoidance is not an option for us. Our child was hospitalized so many times, and even if that may be, let's say if we are in that 8% category, we will do our best to give our child that chance, and as many other kids as we can. And my son is a proof of the program working for him.
So you've essentially set up a program with an American doctor and even Australian doctors now to create a system where children can become get over their anaphylaxis or their allergies by becoming gradually immune or being exposed to their allergens over time. Is that how it works?
Yes, so American doctor is a business partner. He's obviously not a doctor in Australia, but it's like when you do a Jenny Craig diet, do you need Jenny Craig? No, you don't. It's a protocol which belongs to Dr. Jones, and he's the business owner together with our family of the clinic. However, a local Australian pediatrician and a local medical team is in charge of implementing the program, and they are doing all the hard work on the ground. We have had so many graduations so far in the program, including for my son. We're exceptionally grateful to Dr. Jones for allowing us to accept his protocol, to be the first clinic outside of North America to do so. I mean, you being American, I guess, and Australian, your view of America is very different. Being a doctor as well in both countries, for us as food allergy family, going to America is extremely frightening. Looking at all the possible bills of going to an emergency department. I mean, we went 10 times in Australia. Doesn't mean we will be paying it off for the rest of our life in America if it happened. So we are very lucky to live in Australia and have the Medicare system. But the Medicare system does not have what we do and what we want for our children. So we hope that this program is going to provide food freedom to as many kids as possible. But that's not the end of our mission. Our mission is to spread the word and get as many GPs in particular to jump on board, to collaborate with allergists, to make a new system in Australia. Because the current system is not working. 1 million people in Australia have food allergies, 1 in 10 children. What we went through for 9 years, and we're still going through, should not happen to others if there is another way. In America, more than 1,000 allergists are doing this for the last 10 years. Insurance companies are paying for it. We are self-funding it. All of our families in the program are paying full prices to fund this clinic, and we are still eternally grateful to everybody involved. We believe in a different possibility. And for my own child, obviously I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe in it, and if I didn't believe that the change is possible.
Well, I have one last question for you. Thank you so much for sharing all those things. What will, if things work out in the best way possible, what will food freedom really look like for you and your family and as a mother?
For us, it would mean traveling without restrictions, having a life of not just freedom from food allergies, but freedom from fear, better social interactions, more touchy-feely, probably sense of humanity. For my child, a lot of food allergy children have this fear of dying.
Yeah, wow.
They don't believe they will live like everybody else. They also don't believe they're good enough. They believe they're punished by life.
Wow.
So I think for us, we would still have a lot of work to go through psychologically with both children, with ourselves. Like my son has actually reached food freedom, and my heart still stops when I give him the full allergens. Like, is it still like, pinch yourself? So for Amelia, and she's the sole reason for the person for whom we opened this clinic. Not Alex as much, but more Amelia, because her road has been really traumatic for everybody involved, and everyone who knows us knows about Amelia's food allergies. We hope that she will be an ambassador, a voice of change in Australia and globally, because we are using food as medicine. We are retraining immunity through food. No biologics, no products, no set in stone protocols. It is amazing to see the change in the children and adults already in the program. So I can only hope that God will be on our side, that it will be in that 92% bracket. And then we can have another interview and see how we feel afterwards.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and opening up to us. And I think if more people did know about this and this journey, then their eyes would be more open to the possibilities of food freedom as you've described.
Thank you.
Thanks.